The Timberwolves faced off against the Charlotte Hornets, and the biggest story behind this game was the big night from Karl Anthony Towns going off for 62 points. Most of these points came in the first, second, and third, and he was only able to muster 4 points in the fourth quarter, coming up short from the Charlotte Hornets in a comeback win. The Charlotte Hornets were down by 12 to enter the fourth quarter. Apart from Karl Anthony Towns and his 62 points, and Nikhil and Rudy Gobert being decent on offense, there was really no offense for the Timberwolves last night. If any of their players were to hit some of their shots, they would have won the game, without a doubt. But the only player that really showed up to play offensively was Karl Anthony Towns. This game should have been a blowout for the Timberwolves. The coach of the Timberwolves was not happy about this game. You could see in the post-game interview, he was very upset with how the Timberwolves were playing. He thought it was immature. He thought that there was no defense to be played. And because there was no defense being played, it allowed the Charlotte Hornets to be able to hit their shots and get back in a rhythm. And once the Timberwolves ended up not being able to hit their shots, or Karl Anthony Towns not being able to hit his shots. Once again, I said he only scored 4 points in the fourth quarter. Then the whole team was in a loop, because if Cat wasn't hitting his shots, nobody else was hitting their shots, then they have no offense. Now, instead of it being a blowout win for the Wolves, it ended up being an upset in favor of the Hornets. Brandon Miller was trending on Twitter. It's Miller time. He was the star scorer for the Charlotte Hornets, putting up 27 points on only 13 shots. LaMelo Ball was also there and scoring, getting 18 points and assisting on 13 shots. It's been a really big problem for the Wolves with this loss to a very bad team. This is not something to be taken lightly. You should not be losing to a team like this when you have the number 1 seed in the Western Conference. If you can only get one of your star offensive players going against one of the bad teams in the league, that is really bad news. And not to mention, this team they were playing like they didn't even want to score. It was more of force-feeding Karl Anthony Towns the ball and hoping that Karl Anthony Towns would score. That's not how you're going to win games, and that's why the coach was really upset. You need to be able to get both of the players going, both on the offense and the defense. Just because you're having a good night on offense doesn't mean the effort needs to stop on the defense, and that's something that was happening towards everyone else. And it might be because they're young and because, they're excited and whatnot, but still, they have to remember to maintain that discipline, because they are a playoff team, and they're essentially competing to be that playoff team to beat in the postseason. So if they don't give off that reputation now, that is a huge problem. The offense was literally just Karl Anthony Towns all night, and that's something that can't happen. In other news, the Phoenix Suns were also able to win their game. They played back-to-back. They played the other day where Kevin Durant dropped 40 without taking any free throws, and now they played this game where Kevin Durant decided to drop 43 again. And instead of the free throws, he decided to hit a game winner. Devin Booker and Bradley Beal were a bit quiet last night, with Booker only scoring 16 points and Bradley Beal only scoring 18, but a win is a win, as they do say. It is a bit concerning, however, because this is the Bulls team without Zach LaVine at the moment. DeMar DeRozan wasn't playing well, as he went 8 for 17, only scoring 21 points, and they lost by 2 points. On the bright side, if you're a Bulls fan, Kobe White, he is a fan favorite, scored 26 points, got 10 rebounds and 9 assists. If Kevin Durant did not step up the way that he did, then the Phoenix Suns definitely would have lost this game. Obviously, they won, so it's not a big deal. But for now, it's not a big deal. but there are going to be games where everyone needs to step up. And this is honestly like the perfect parallel from the game that I mentioned before. The same with Embiid's game that I mentioned before. Like, where it was just one player doing the thing on offense. The one players for each team respectively and each game respectively was Joel Embiid, Karl Anthony Towns, and Kevin Durant. Two of those three players ended up winning the game because their defense ended up holding out. Now, you might argue that, well, I mean, the offense was definitely doing its job because the player was scoring so many points. Like, the one player was doing its job, but was the rest of the team doing its job? For Kevin Durant, the rest of the team wasn't necessarily doing its job. Devin Booker wasn't scoring as much. Grayson Allen was 3 for 4 from 3, which was great, but he usually tends to score a little bit more. Bradley Beal definitely scores a little bit more, along with the rest of the players that were on the team. Anthony Edwards, again, did not shoot particularly well in this game, but regardless, like, you need to be able to play defense and you need to be able to defend. The Phoenix Suns allowed a lot fewer points, or allowed the Chicago Bulls to score a lot fewer points in their game, despite the fact that their offense wasn't playing particularly well, which ended up being the difference maker in that game. Now, definitely, like, it was important for the defense to be strong if you're the Phoenix Suns, especially with Kevin Durant going off. You definitely don't want to waste having one of your players go off in a very important game, or you definitely don't want to waste having a good offensive performance, but also allowing the other team to score several points on you, making the game close. And it's always important to have a good defense going into the playoffs so that way you don't have to worry about your defense lacking and constantly needing to make sure that you have to score every single possession. And speaking of defense, we can talk about a team that's really good at defense, which is the Boston Celtics. Last night, they went up against Kyrie Irving and the Dallas Mavericks, along with, I don't know if you know about this, but Kyrie Irving used to play for them. Kyrie had a decent 24 points against his former team, but that was overshadowed by his teammate Luka Doncic, who ended up scoring 33 points with 13 assists and 18 rebounds. But even that was overshadowed by Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. Jaylen Brown had 34 points, and Jason Tatum had 39 points with 11 rebounds along with the win. The Celtics won by 9 points in the Mavericks' territory on back-to-back road games for the Celtics on back-to-back nights, showing the team's prowess in the regular season and showing why they are a top 2 team in the NBA right now. Obviously, I talked about Embiid having a big game, but Victor Wembanyama also went off for 33 points. Obviously, it wasn't anything compared to Embiid having a crazy night, but Victor was also is the leading candidate for Rookie of the Year. Joel Embiid is one of the candidates for the league MVP. It's close for both Wemby and it's close for Joel Embiid, and they're both competing against players at their own position. Same could be argued with Tatum. You could argue that Tatum has MVP cases, but in my opinion, I don't think anyone is stopping Joel or Jokic from absolutely running away with this award, even though this win over the Dallas Mavericks definitely improves their stature and their overall appearance to other teams in the Western Conference and in the rest of the league, because this shows that now they're able to compete against every single team. Despite not having a strong bench, they have a strong starting lineup that is able to withstand the fact that they don't have an elite bench. So right now we are going to take a short break and go into the third segment where we talk about the MVP ladder. So I will be right back.